Tattooing in the Age of Quarantine, Episode 2. This episode is a two-part dealio taking place on May 15th, 2020 and May 19th, 2020. I sat down with Matt via Zoom and we talked about the current state of what we're going through there and here as well. And on the 19th is the official date that he was allowed to go back to work and begin to tattoo. And so he ran us through what that day looks like and what the days to come may look like. And I think ended on a positive note. And I'm happy to see things are getting opened back up. Maybe you're turning back to normal. And I hope that things get back to normal here as well too. Without further ado, this is Tattooing in the Age of Quarantine, Episode 2 with Matt Headley.
Shit. I think I'm liking it. Fucking whoa! I'm in an earthquake. Yeah. Is that your first sheet today or second sheet today? What do you want?
This is the first one for today, but truth be told, I stayed up late last night working on this one. So it's not really from today.
Today I had kind of like I was kind of rusty painting Flash. I wasn't doing it for a bit, and then I did that the one for that person. I keep forgetting that word. The commission. I did the commission one today, and I just kind of like did it, and I got really into the zone, and I started it and I finished it. That's the first time I've started and finished a painting in a while, and I've been like overthinking them and scared to finish them and taking too long on them, and like that was like really liberating. And now I'm back in the paint zone. Now I'm like ready.
I used to work with this dude, and he told me this crazy theory that he had about doing art at night. And he said, and it makes sense. He said, he said, in his estimation, there's only so much creative energy like in a space at a certain amount of time. And for some reason, when more people are asleep, you have more access to that creative energy. And I would hate to think that my creative energy is based on like just what's out there in the universe or whatever, but who knows, man? I don't know.
Oh, I kind of love that.
But it's kind of one of those things too. It's like if you're trying to lose weight, the real battle isn't fought at your house; it's fought at the grocery store. Whether you buy those foods in the first place and bring them in your house, that's where the battle is, not whether you eat them or not. Because once you buy them and bring them in your house, you are most definitely going to eat it at some point. So why torture? So I think like art's kind of like that too, in the sense that it's like, it always has to be available. And again, even if it is just like technique or just the act of making, that hand motion, it's like Louis Armstrong always said, like he would, you better be ready to go when you show up to practice. He would start warming up for a 6 o'clock practice at noon at his house, because when he got there, dude, he was ready to roll. Like he shook off all that dust and let's go, and in a lot of ways, like if I don't sit down and wake my hand up and my muscles up in the morning before I go to work or whatever, dude, it's a harder day. Now, did I have to do that when I was 20 something? Like I didn't. I mean, maybe I should have, who knows looking back, but now it's like, oh dude, like the first time my hand moves on a line can't be on somebody's arm, dude, or it's a rough day. So
so maybe your tick isn't for painting, but your tick for tattooing is to keep painting to be warmed up for the tattooing.
I mean, it's definitely a little bit of both. I mean, it's definitely like a perpetual thing because it's like, the whole like, if you build it, they will come. Well, if you don't got no flash on your wall, no one can pick from the flash on your wall.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
If you don't got it, how can you expect people to get it?
Yeah.
And then the other idea in that, and just the same as like people might want some of Wayne's flash, and I think that's important too. It's like, having your name on it and something that already went through your hand and you maybe figured out the mistakes you know, there's a lot of things like if I tattoo them, I'm like, oh man, I better fix that spot right there. You know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, the painting is kind of nice because you can like have a go at it, look at it, think about it, and then when it comes time to tattoo it, you know exactly why you don't want to put that yellow there because you've already looked at that yellow there for 2 years, and you're like, the yellow's not going there. You know, you've already
Yeah.
worked it out.
You know, it's been awesome on this break to talk to many tattooers and just like have conversations I would love to have, you know, just don't have time to do it.
May 15th, in 4 days, you get to tattoo. Is that right?
Oh man, crazy.
That's the date, right? 19th?
Tuesday. Yeah, I think so.
How are you scared? Are you excited? What is that day
Oh
look
man,
like?
I don't know. You know, it's kind of funny talking to so many tattooers and everyone being like, I hope I can remember how to do this. You know, and the truth for most people is that, you know, for most tattooers, this is the longest break that they have ever had
Right.
since they've started tattooing, you know. This is not the longest break that I've ever had, but yeah, you know, it is kind of weird. Like I've been going down to the shop the last couple of days and like you know, just doing stuff I needed to do before we open. And it's like it's really weird to kind of like settle back into it, you know, because it's like it's one of those things like when you know, before you're 30, you think like, oh well, I ain't gonna live to be 30 in the first place, like, you know, and then you hit 30 and you're like, oh, what do I do now? You know, like here I'm living for the end of the world, and now I got to go back to work. You know, like
Right.
wait,
Yeah.
what? You know, like I, you know, sorry I didn't do those taxes. I was hoping I wouldn't have to like all of them blow up or like, you know, like I, you know, my accountant haven't, you know, she mailed them to me today. I'm like, oh, good, like. Cause you know,
Right.
I don't, you know, I'm like you. I'm like, wait, what day is it? Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's you know, it's dark out. You know, like, you know, that's about it. But you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's a funny thing. Like, I'm super stoked to get back to tattooing. I mean, you know, I think any tattooer would be a liar even after like a weekend sometimes if they
Yeah.
didn't come to work and they're like, oh man, like no double circles, no straight
Right. How's it been? Has it been
lines.
well received? Are the clients like, are they ready? Are they spooked? Well, I mean, if people want to get tattooed, they want to get tattooed, right? Like,
Well,
what's it about?
and you know, I think in all of this, you know, in all of this, whatever you want to call it, here in Kansas, they just call it the mumbo jumbo that's going on, or the whatever. They don't even call it like COVID-19, like or like you know
Right.
coronavirus. They're just like this stuff that's going on. You know, I think it's you know all of that just seems so different in locations. You know, I mean it's just you know what is going on in Kansas is not going on in New York is not
Right.
going on. I mean it just isn't. You know,
Yeah.
and here you know I think in all of those things too you also have to understand like the society and the people you're around and just how they take things, you know. And people here in Kansas, like I don't know, man, they're not really, you know, the whole mask thing. It's not really catching on like a lot of people would wear them. I mean,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
if you think that you should, but you know,
Right.
Kansas is like I don't know, like you know, these are the people that go out and like watch tornadoes go down your block. You know, it's like people here are a
Right.
little nuts, you know, and people here are also, you know, it's kind of Christian based or whatever for a lot of people, and people aren't afraid to die either, you know, and so it's like, you know, you put these things in like crazy boredom and not afraid of death, like, of course, like this is Kansas, man. Like I don't, you know, so
Trippy.
in
Yeah.
that idea, it's like, yeah, you know, like the majority of people just haven't even like missed a beat in the deal. Like, what do you mean you're closed? Like, and I even, you know, the day I was leaving, I was telling this dude all about it, and he's like, "So you'll be back Tuesday, though, right? Like, you'll be. I mean, when can I get in?" And I'm like, you know, dude, I'm getting, you know, being ordered to close here. I guess. Like, I don't know. Like, ask the governor. You know.
Yeah. Call your
So
councilman.
So, I don't know. I think in terms of that, and I think anywhere, and I definitely, from what I know and have seen in an economy, like however deep that valley is how big that mountain's going to be in return. And it might take a while to climb up that mountain, and I hope that everyone makes it there. But I think for as low as the money stuff is gone, it'll snap back just as hard and as fast. I mean, we're still in a bit of tax season, and people
Hmm.
supposedly, I mean, I never got one, got some like stimulus check or something. And a
Yeah,
lot of people, are, essential and excuse me, and haven't, missed a beat. I mean, they've been working through this whole time. Like, what?
totally. Yeah.
So,
It's weird.
yeah,
Like, have you noticed there's a tattoo guilt? Like people that are getting a chance to come back into it in other states, they're like, they have to really explain how they're going to do their job, and they have to, or even are like saying, "Oh, I'm allowed to open, but I'm not going to open yet." I'm doing the moral thing. Like it's kind of a weird side to be on when you can go back, and then it's like, oh, but am I allowed to go back? The internet may not allow that. Like it's
well,
kind of weird
and it,
balance between Kansas Matt and Internet Matt, right? Like, how's that
sure.
work?
Well, and in that idea too, I think the whole like moral compass. I mean, again, it like changes place to place, and I think really you just have to be knowledgeable and remove what is in between you and knowledge. So in this idea, you know, there's a few things that motivate me or whatever. Um, and are reasons why going back to work. But I like to say, like, I mean, I have a pretty fair contact with people all over the country, all over the world, and I'd like to hope that I have pretty fair contact with people here. And I was typing with a good friend of mine that I've known for, dude, for however long, I mean, years and years and years, and she runs the ER at one of the two big hospitals here,
Right.
and she told me that in their ER, they have had a total of 17 people come through with the COVID-19 or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
17 people in the
Man.
span of 2 months. She
Not
said
bad.
that, that, and I'm not going to go into money details, but, and there's more divisions than the division she is in. There's like a few of them, but in her division of the hospital alone, they are down $53 million because of
Damn.
all this. And she tells me, and so, I went on this rant about these masks and how I didn't think it was fair. People should think that like whatever mask will protect them from, and she gets on and she tells me like, oh yeah, these masks probably cause more harm than they do good because people don't know how to take them off. They're always messing with them, blah, blah, blah. And
Well, it's
these,
kind of
these are
like the glove thing, then, huh?
yes.
Okay.
And these are the grade of mask you need anyway to do anything. And furthermore, she tells me, I don't wear a mask in public. I'm aware of what I touch. I wash my hands often. Um, and uh, I don't wear a mask anywhere outside of work. And then I have people on the internet screaming at me, oh, you don't love your people around you if you don't wear a mask, and this is your responsibility to protect other people. And it's like, well, okay, like, I mean,
Man.
I don't even know what to say here because
Yeah.
but you got it. But the experts on the internet say, it's like, dude, I talk to experts on the phone. I called my friend that works at Stanford in San Francisco and talked to him about this. You want to tell me they don't want you to go to tattoo because there's going to be a spike
Mm.
in coronavirus cases and there's no room at the hospitals? Bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the truth. Call them up and ask. I mean, call people and ask them yourself. And I think this whole thing about America relying on this like mediary party to tell them their news or what's happening, I think is the fault in the first place. Dude, go direct. Like, why do you trust somebody to give you something in an accurate picture, you know? So, you know, I think in that, and then follow the numbers too and understand what the numbers are about, you know? And
And the
I
numbers in
think,
your area, like it's like, for example, New York numbers keep popping up in my feed, but I don't live in New York, so it's like New York numbers do not apply to Wichita, Kansas.
you know what? Dude, I've been keeping track of all of this stuff every day.
Yeah.
Because dude, I know what they're trying to do in the first place. And it's like, dude, I'm watching your numbers every day. Like, I'm following this stuff. And I'm not saying it's the state of Kansas. I mean, it's the media saying this, and why do they care? I mean, what vested interest do they have in the deal?
You know what? One thing I'll say I think is really cool from all this is that I maybe it's just because I have more time. I don't know. Maybe it's because everyone has more time, but I feel the most support that I've ever felt in tattooing, the most community in tattooing I've ever felt is during this time. And
Oh,
people
for
say
sure.
tattoo community, and it's just like I've said before, the community ends when you walk out the door of that tattoo shop.
For sure.
But you know, right now I feel really connected. Right now, people are wanting to buy art from tattooers that would never buy art before, and maybe that's spawning a new value and interest in collecting tattoo flash. Or maybe it's just charitable to help out your local tattooer to buy a painting today. I don't know, but I like to think it'll carry on tomorrow. But it seems like there's a lot of community and a lot of support happening right now that wasn't happening before all this.
For sure. I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. You know, C.S. Lewis wrote a really cool little page about like war and that idea, and the bad things about it, and then also the good things in it, you know. And Mr. Rogers said, you know, whenever there's time of crisis, you know, always look for the helpers, because there's always helpers around, and that's where you need to focus your energy. And I definitely see that in the world of tattooing, but also my neighborhood. I mean, you know, and I think part of that, again, what you said just goes back to time. It's like, I've
Right.
talked to so many tattooers in the last 2 months that oh man, I'd love to talk to that guy on the phone. You know, you go to work,
Yeah.
you tattoo all week, they have the same or close to the same schedule you do. And then
Yeah.
all you want to do on the weekend is not talk about tattoos or just have fun or, you know, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So in that regard, it's like, yeah, there is a magic to having that time and being able to step back and just being like, whoa, you know, like, and I would have to agree with you. And I think, you know, in this idea, it is good, you know, both ways, you know, also with the politician angle, but just to step back and assess your boundaries and
Yeah.
see where your boundaries are and see where others' boundaries are too. And that's, you know, really important. And you know, I think that's one of the coolest things about being a tattooer now, you know. And again, you should have been here yesterday or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But seeing what I've seen in just my short time of being a tattooer is just the collective consciousness of it alone is like, whoa, you know, it's like amazing. And the collective conscious in that is amazing. And just like the you know, just how everyone essentially just like, I mean, and not, I don't mean this in a mean way, in a friendly way, just pushes each, I mean, it just pushes each other. Like, you know, Tony Hawk said it once, he said, you know, once you've seen it done, it's easier to do, you know. And then you see somebody do something, you're like, oh yeah, you know. And
It can
so,
be
I mean,
done. It's possible.
and then in that there's like egos and, oh, you caught, you know, it's like, no man, you know, you take whatever. I mean, this is a collective consciousness of tattooing, and if it wasn't any good, no one would steal it in the first place. So just feel lucky that somebody thought it was good, you know. And so
I
that
love
idea,
that.
it's like, I think like, what other cooler time to be a tattoo? You know what? Some of these dudes, you know, Paul Rogers would be on the phone all day, every day, talking to people, just not getting anything done, you know. And you think about like Sailor Jerry, like, oh, you mean I could just call a dude in Japan? Like, I don't have to like do all this legwork for months and months and just like pick up the phone and call it, you know. It's like, never been a cooler time. You know, having said that, you know, I think a very serious issue that, you know, to be a Debbie Downer, I think a very serious issue that is facing, you know, Americans as a whole and tattooers as a whole. And again, tell me if you think I'm crazy, is a no algorithm, you know, mostly unedited, chronological social media platform, you know, and it, you know, and if, you know, Instagram, how it used to be, when you could get on there and see who your buddy, what time they posted whatever, and go down
Right.
there.
Yeah.
And I think that's most utterly important. And then goes back to the whole like going direct to the source, and removing that third party. And now that Instagram is owned by Facebook, I mean, I send you some clips of some interviews with that dude that owns Facebook, and I can't say that I try to hang out with that dude, you know, to be
Yeah.
real upfront.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I, if I knew how to build this, I mean, I don't know what it takes to do that, but I think that, you know, people need to realize like that, and clearly that media and the transparency in that is of utmost importance, one way or the other.
Yeah.
And I think one of the ways in achieving that is clearly chronologically. And I see
Yeah.
why they do it, and I get the whole making money thing, but I don't think that that's what needs to happen. So, I mean, if you're a genius computer person out there and whatever, like, hey, you need a to-do list, like, build a better Instagram, right? I don't know.
You know what? You know what I love, speaking of social media, and I don't want to talk about social media for too long, is the original MySpace. I fucking loved it, dude.
Dude,
I fucking
crazy.
loved it. And it's like, and they keep trying to, they changed it, it got bought, and it got sold,
Sure.
this and that. No one wants that shit. If tomorrow they said, yo, MySpace original is available for download, there's a top
Yeah,
8, you could put your songs on there, you can add your friends, you'll see things in
right.
order, you can message them. How many people would fall in love with it? Like, it,
Yeah,
I don't know. Just actually to bring it full circle back to Tony Hawk, like they're re-releasing Tony Hawk 1 and 2, but they're making him
yeah,
new
I saw
again.
that. Yeah,
That's what we've been wanting, you know? It's
yeah,
like sometimes the best things have already been done. Sometimes taking
yeah,
a step forward means taking a step back a little bit, you know?
yeah,
Like, think about it.
yeah. No, for sure. You know, and when all that editing, you know, all that censorship stuff was going on Facebook, I'm like,
Yeah.
what about MySpace, dude? Like, what are they looking like over there now? Who,
Yeah.
Johnny Depp
Yeah.
owns that over there? Like,
Yeah.
what is it gonna
MySpace
take?
classic, dude. We need it.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
need
What
it.
does it take to put a run onto MySpace? Like, can we get this herd to like freak
Yeah.
out and go the other way? Like,
Yeah.
no, the Russians are coming. Jump on
Right.
MySpace.
Right. Yeah, the
Yeah,
social
I
media
don't
thing
know.
is like it's the social media thing is the best and the worst thing ever. But
Totally.
I think it's more of a good thing than a bad thing, you know. To an
I don't.
extent, it's we're hanging in there, you know.
In this idea, it's like I've purposely gotten into a lot of this stuff with people on Facebook, just halfway to play the devil's advocate or whatever. And just the way that people reason,
Mhm.
or just how they come about their decision process.
Dude,
I
Facebook's
mean,
got you,
and who am
bro.
I to
It's
judge?
supposed to have you on the hook, dude. It won. Facebook
Yeah,
won.
yeah. And I see a great danger in that, and I mean in like ways like like 1984,
Yeah,
like that
yeah,
whole thing. It's like I remember reading that in high school and just being like, this is the craziest, like, you make me read this, like, this
yeah.
is insanity. And now that we're here, I'm like, oh, that's
Right.
what that's what
Yeah.
they were talking about. Like, oh man, I shouldn't have mocked that stuff. Like,
Mhm.
oops.
Let's
So
let's try to let's end this on a positive note or a negative note. Your choice.
positive.
Do you have a quote that you could share with us that could do something good for us?
Oh man, and that dude, I could throw out a lot. And I think the best quote that I could give you is from my son, and I don't have the sheet that he drew here and right in front of me, and I'll probably butcher it. But he gave this to me long before this happened, and I was facing some kind of weird, tough decisions where I didn't feel like I was going to win. I mean, as a parent, you kind of realize half the time, even the decision you make, you're not maybe going to win. And he gave me this sheet, and it had this wolf, and it had a fox on it, and on it it said, "Believe in what you trust. Trust in what you believe." Morris Oliver Headley. That's my biggest teacher right there, I guess.
Great words of Momo.
You need to go organic tap mask. You need to fold the beard up, and then yes.
It's
just
a natural air filter.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, dude, you know how much crap this blocks from getting in
way
my
more than a face mask, and you get that Colfax tape, use the tubes, and just
dude. Yeah, man. Tell you what. I mean, that's the way to do it. But it's like one of those things. I'm not gonna like shave my beard off to then like not have anything to do with the mask in a week and a half when everyone's over it anyway. Like,
how long have you been working on that beard for?
I don't know. I can grow it back quicker than I can my hair, probably. Which is funny. Like, I'm about 2 weeks, like
No.
No, just longer than that. But and it's not one of those things. It's like I don't find any like, I mean, it's not like a fashion accessory. I mean, it's laziness, right? It's not like a fashion accessory. Yeah. And I don't find it like, somebody asked me once, they're like, "Dude, you want to join our beard club?"
No.
And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, we have a beard club." And this dude had one of those like crazy like big ones, like coming off his head, and then this thing. I mean, this guy spent some time getting manicured, man. Yeah. And I was just like, bro, like, this is just, I'm just lazy. I just don't want to shave my face. Like, I don't find any, fashion in this. Like, no, I can't join your beard club. Like, that just is senseless. So,
how was your first day back? The mask isn't comfy, but other than that, what was it like?
Oh man, it was cool. I had a pretty awesome day back. Just like there's a few people in the neighborhood that popped in and I hadn't seen in a while. It was kind of like, what's going on here? Like, what are you making of this? And how you been?
Back from summer break.
And it's kind of funny too. I had really awesome people all day, mostly like regulars or I mean all of them. I guess I've tattooed before. One guy was down in Kansas City, and my first guy, I always feel like God talks to me with tattoos I do sometimes. And the first thing, I'm like, what's the first tattoo gonna be? Like, what is it gonna be here? And the first one back is this. I was like, he came in. I have a sleeve going on this guy. I was like, oh, okay. This is going to be a good one. It's not going to be like baby's mama's name on my, whatever. Okay, cool. I was like, dude, what do you want to get? And he's like, well, the first one I want to get's like a candle burning at both ends. And I was like, yeah, that's going to be my first tattoo back, bro. Candle burning at both ends. Because why would you? Like, of course. So that was kind of a cool moment. I mean, kind of funny anyway. And he was cool, and all my people were real cool, and they all got good stuff, and an awesome friend. It's so funny. I was talking to some other friends of mine, and I had out my like old like 7th grade yearbook, and I was flipping through, and keep in mind I don't live in the city I went to high school in, and I was like showing my friends pictures of our friends on the Zoom or whatever, and our friend Jerome is there, and I'm like, oh, Jerome, man, I haven't seen this dude in like so long. And it was like literally the day before I went back to work, and sure enough, I'm looking out my tattoo, and I look up and he's standing right there. Whoa. I was like, dude, like,
how bizarre.
He lives here in Wichita where I live, and I see him like every like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Just like randomly, like, oh, here's this dude, and we just happened to be at the same place at the same
You
time.
conjured him.
And yeah, and here he is at the door. I was like, dude, like, did you know I've been thinking about you?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh man, it was so funny too, because we were talking for a while, and it's like, and then I see him pull out this like bank envelope, and I'm like, oh, I know what you're doing, and you better just put that in your pocket, because dude, I'm doing just fine here, and you better take that money and go. Really, I mean, I feel like like we talked about before, a lot of like the economy is really based on like restaurants. A lot of American economy is really based. It's like, take that whatever you got, man, and just go out to dinner with your wife, dude. Don't worry about me. And he's like, nope. He's like, I got my dinner money. Don't you worry about it. Threw it down and like bolted.
Really?
Dude, like, I mean, it's like, I mean,
Please
it's
let
one
me
of those
tattoo
things.
you for this.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
one of those things. It's like, I have a friend once. He said, you'll let me do this for you, or you will offend me.
You
It was,
said that to me. You said
yeah.
that.
Well, I learned it from him.
Oh, man.
And that's my friend Ron. My friend Ron that tattoos in Colorado Springs. It was him when I got tattooed by him.
Man,
Was like,
I need to
what
pass
can
it along. Yeah.
And he's like, and he laid it down. He's like, you'll offend me because and it's like,
Yeah, I know it. I heard it.
It's such a humbling thing. I just got this awesome package from this dude I know, Santi, in Denver tonight, and it was just like, wait, what? Like, this is all for us? Like, just like, I mean, it's like I'm winning like The Price is Right or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, something ridiculous like all these T-shirts and just these mirrors and like stickers that he made for the shop, and just
Oh, great. That's awesome.
dude, all this artwork and button. I mean, it's just like just kept going and kept going, and I'm just like, man, like how cool is it to know cool people? It's like that's like
It's the coolest.
people are one of those things, dude. If you're the only person on this planet, like you'd want to go. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's the only thing that really makes living fun is like people interaction, and it's cool to see that. Like with the whole like so quarantine or whatever words you want to put on it, but it's cool to see that, like how that's almost like a collective conscious where it's like, oh, once you subtract this from my day, it's what I really miss. You know what I'm saying? And you might be, oh, screw people and this, that, and whatever, and people suck. And I'll agree with you, but like, man, what would even be the point if you were the only one here? You know what I'm saying? Like, how awesome. So
it was good to be back.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing the other cool part about that, I was like, I'm gonna go back and it's gonna be like, yeah, I want these 8 perfect circles and these ultra long lines wrapping around. I was like, surely I'm getting screwed on this deal, right? And it was the first one. It was kind of like the movements were a little easier. And of course, before I went to work, I'm here like drawing, like, oh man, like I hope I remember,
Yeah.
And then so it's one of those things. I won't say it's like riding a bike because it's not like.
Yeah.
But having said that, I mean, it was like, oh yeah, I mean, it was like you and your wife being apart for like a month or 2 months. I mean, in this case, and I don't say that like tattooing is as good as people, and don't get me wrong on the wife analogy, but if
I won't tell Emily.
Your wife for 2 months, don't tell her I said this, I love you more than tattooing. I'm sorry. I should have used something else, I guess. But it is one of those things though. When you start again, you're just like, oh yeah, like that, And thankfully, I was, like talk about that sweet spot. It's like found that sweet spot pretty quick, and it just like kept up through my day. Though it's been a little weird. It's kind of like. It was a bit frustrating too, because like we moved around all these books, right? We're trying to remove surfaces, took off, I had my ink in front of me, took all that down, put it in the cabinet. There's like nothing, kind of read everything. And, I felt a little bit like if I was blind and somebody came to my house and rearranged my furniture. Because it's like, dude, I've been in that place for a while, and everything is like, oh, scissors, oh, oh, this, oh, that, it's like, now, like, all day, I'm like, oh, crap, like, I put that over there, like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why did I do that? Why isn't it in this drawer where it used to be, So, that was a little weird, but.
Creature of habit.
Like, oh, crap. And sorry, Wayne. So this is what I did. I myself did wear a mask all day. And, I started out and I had like this kind of cloth thicker one. And man, I got like 5 minutes into this deal and was just like, oh, this is not going to do it for me. Because then it kind of, if you're moving your head around, it kind of moves around. And then it's like moves. And it literally like, dude, I got so hot so fast. And, turned on the air conditioning and everything. But anyway, so then I just grabbed one of the ones I got at Kingpin or whatever that are just like the, ear loop ones.
They're way more comfortable. They don't pull in your ears as much.
But so what I figured out too with the mask is like to have one that you wear all day, I'd imagine after about 20 minutes, it's not going to be doing anything anyway. So it's like I would change the mask after every time I got up, dude.
That makes sense. You change your gloves often.
And it's one of those things I would take it and I would try to, I open my back door, which is awesome, and just have air blowing through.
Yes.
But I just like take another one and just go outside and do it and just breathe for a second anyway. But yeah, it's one of those things, dude. I don't know that like it's pragmatic or possible just to go in or sanitary maybe even too to wear the same mask all day. I don't know that it is. And as far as people coming in, it was a little strange because I expected that no one would have their own mask, and B, people would just not even go for it one bit, like put on a mask thing. And I was surprised. There was a couple that came in that had their own. Everybody else didn't have one. And some people would even come in the shop and not like, I have them in the mailbox, right? Like put one on before you come in. And a couple of people would just like not even see the sign or not care or whatever and just come in. And it's like, well, I don't know if they're medically precluded from wearing a mask or not. So, and I ain't trying to hassle people. And I'm my distance away anyway, and my air's blowing through anyway. So it's like, dude, I'm not going to hassle them if we're, hey, man, you got time today? No. Okay, bummer. I'll try again. It's like, I'm not going to hassle them for a, 30-second conversation.
Absolutely,
like So I don't know.
And even if you did, it would still be the same. They'd probably be in your store longer with that conversation.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and it's one of those things too, like when and again, it's people like our situation in Kansas is very different than other places. But I think people here, it's like, oh, dude, if you see anyone here wearing a mask in a week and a half, I'll be surprised.
Really?
Like, it's just like, everyone's pretty over it. One way or the other, whether if they're just like over it, I don't believe it. Or if they're just over it, I'll just get sick. Or just over it, like I'm just ready to go out and have fun and just don't even care one way or the other. But I don't know, man. I just think as a population in Wichita, Kansas, dude, if people are still wearing these in a week and a half, dude, I'll freak out. So I don't know.
So it's kind of like theatrical etiquette is what it feels like at this point.
Well, and I think that's just it. And I think that there is like some benefit in that. And I think it makes some people feel comfortable. And I think that's good. But on that same hand, in the bad side of that is like, if people think that that's really protecting them and they're betting on that, and maybe they have like, their immune system is compromised in some way, then they should have the education to like protect themselves. You know what I'm saying? And I think by saying like, oh, well, these chintzy masks work for, all this stuff, you're fine. And if they believe that, and then they go out and are honestly trying to not get sick, and it could be a life and death situation. I mean, that's not fair. I mean, that's not fair in any regard,
Yeah.
So I think in that, it's like, with the N95 ones, it's like, if you're going to go out and really want to be safe for yourself and not trust your neighbor, and assume that what we assume every day in the tattoo shop is that everyone around you has cooties.
Yep.
And if that's what you want to think about airborne cooties, then you should probably be wearing at least an N95 mask and goggles.
100%.
Other than that, I mean, I can't see that it being what would be the word? I mean, nothing's foolproof, but less of a, I mean, there's risk in anything, but, clearly putting a piece of paper on your face is different than like, sealed up, whatever.
I guess it's like, the idea that people are running with is that doing something is better than doing nothing. But if you don't know how to do that something, that's probably not better.
But it's the same thing with gloves. It's
Yeah.
like, and I don't have to go over that scenario because you know what I'm going to say.
How often do you change your underwear? If you're not changing your mask at least as often as you're changing your underwear,
Well, and even
got that
even
poopy face.
I mean,
You can't be walking around with that poopy face all over the place. Can't have that face mask on for a week without washing it at least. Every
dude,
day, at least minimum, I would say.
and I think that's the thing, like my friend that works at the ER, she says she doesn't wear like gloves and stuff out. She's like,
Yeah.
if you wear gloves, I mean, it's the fault, and then people don't wash their hands.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're better off in like not in tattooing, obviously, but in like a public setting, just wherever you go, just wash your hands, dude, And I think like, well, somebody today we were talking about it with one of the food guys that I tattoo on, and he knows about gloves and how you're supposed to wear gloves and how it's supposed to work. And he was like, at some store, and this dude's wearing gloves, and then he's like, all weird about it. And then he's grabbing like a sample of whatever from the Costco,
Yeah.
with his gloved fingers.
They touched everything else, right?
And eats it. And
Yeah.
it's like, dude, like those are the gloves that you thought were keeping you safe. And now you've just directly contaminated yourself inside.
Yeah.
Like,
Gloves themselves should make you more aware of the things you touch, not less aware. But that just shows how much unaware people are. They think that these gloves or these masks are just made of magic, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know how to use these tools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things too, that's like, again, in Kansas, it's wear a face covering. Okay. Well, what grade of face covering? And then the same with gloves. Like, you can't, gloves break down in time, and they are a barrier. They're meant to keep it doesn't mean that stuff isn't going to get through your glove. It just means it's a barrier. So when I used to I'm allergic to latex now, I don't use it. But when I first started tattooing, I used latex gloves, and those were also the days where, oh man, you better just have a big old thing of Vaseline to goop out, because
But then it breaks down the latex.
You're gooping that on as you're tattooing. That was just how they did it. Use water now more than anything like that, but this is like the Vaseline method. So the Vaseline breaks down the latex, and you're only supposed to like be using gloves and Vaseline for X amount of time before this like barrier is penetrated enough for it to not work, So it's like, in that idea, it's the same thing with mask, essentially. And so it's like, oh, wear a face cover. Oh, well, for how long? There's no real like, that's not public service. If you're not teaching people how to use it, that's just public ignorance, maybe spreading more stuff. too, and I don't mean this and some people that live in places that it's very hard hit like New York will take this as like a callous remark, and I don't mean it as a callous remark, but it's almost like they, here in Kansas, we've had in the whole state of, oh man, what was the number? I forget the number, but hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, like 800, 900, almost a million. I don't know. But anyway, we've had like up to date, I think it's like 150, 75 deaths total, which in the day of Kansas in 2018, there's 77 people die on an average day. So we've had about 2 average days of Kansas living in the last 2 months with coronavirus on the high end, okay? And most of those numbers, so what would happen here in Kansas is like stuff would get in old folks' homes, like elderly homes, and just spread, dude, just, and then a lot of people would get it, cause the numbers to go up. And then, there's, theoretically like, oh, there's 40 people that tested positive that live in the same house, essentially. Are you seeing people like if you're like, I don't know, going out to get some dinner, or
Everyone's
like
wearing masks. Yeah,
no one is, or everyone is?
Every single person is. Yeah.
And they have their own.
Yes. Yeah. It's very bizarre to see someone without a mask. And I will say, I mean, no one's having it on while they're driving. But when they get out of the car, they're done.
Man, I see that all the time here.
Yeah, not so much here. Everyone has them around their neck, whatever. But I mean, it is bizarre to see someone without a mask. And there is almost like a little tiny like dictator in your head when you're wearing a mask, and you're like, they're not wearing their fucking mask. Like it almost feels like, why am I wearing mine? Like I don't say shit, obviously. I mean, but it's like, huh. So I will say, to the extent that it is weird to see someone without a mask. I will say that. That's why I noticed it with like policemen not wearing it. I'm like, what puts them above this virus? Like, why aren't they out? Like
they already had it.
Yeah. And so that's a weird one. But everyone's wearing the mask. Yeah, everyone's doing it. It just seems like the new normal from what I've seen here, at least.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's one of those things. It's like, don't invest in no mask, because I think it's burning out. I mean, and again, dude, originally I thought, oh man, I'll get some Red Sea ones made. This will be cool.
Right.
Yeah. And I was like, but no one's even gonna wear. I mean, it's gonna be like, I don't know, jumping on whatever trend of the time, and it's like, but no one likes blockbuster movies anymore. Like, I bought all these VHS tapes. Like, dang, missed it. So I don't know. Who knows, man? I don't know.
I sure hope it passes. Hey, I mean, even in the few days since we've talked, you're tattooing now, and you weren't then, and maybe next time we talk, maybe the mask thing won't be a thing then. And it seems like things are moving forward the way we want them to, anyways.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a way, in that it's like you moving forward in the way you want to. It's like, sometimes when you're on a wave, you just got to let it take you where it's going to take you. And there's not much you can do about it one way or the other. But sometimes you can steer that wave. And I think it's like a valiant effort to try to steer that wave, even if it's for nothing. At least you tried, and like, well, I'm supposed to end up on this island by myself or whatever. Take it back, I tried. Like, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And if it can go on at a Lowe's or a Walmart or whatever, then it can go on at a tattoo shop. I mean, there's just no ifs or buts about it. And I don't know, man. I just wonder, it's like, what has to happen, man? Really, like, what has to happen in these places for this to move forward? I mean, does it take like civil disobedience? I mean, to do that, or then what? So
yeah,
we talked about the whole Ohio thing, right?
Yep. And I think with that being said, I think it is moving forward. I think it feels longer than it's been, but it's also been a long time at that. But things are opening up, you know, things are
Do you,
opening up.
do you, do you notice like today it was weird? Like I drove to work and was like, oh, there's that I mean, it's Wichita, so it's not real traffic. I mean, don't get me
Right.
wrong. It's not what you get. But I was like, oh, there's that traffic and that aggressive driving. You
Mhm.
know, I was like, every time I went out before, which isn't a ton, but it was like 8 cars on the road. And it's like, oh, low and slow and everyone's chill. And now it's like, oh, gotta go back to work. I'm crazy.
Well, it was the first 2 weeks of the stay-at-home order. When I was cruising around, not staying at home as ordered,
Yeah.
um, it was fucking awesome. There was no
Yeah.
traffic. The air was clear. Like it was incredible. I'm like, man, I could go for this. And then it was just bam, traffic again. It's like, what? I thought we're not like. But then you know what? I'm out driving too, so I don't know. But yeah,
Sure.
just traffic again. It's back to the way it was. And everything in my town is an essential business. So everything's in business in town but me. So it does feel like an attack on me in a lot of
Mhm.
ways, you
And
know?
how can it not be? I mean,
Right.
how can I mean that's senseless, dude.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know,
Yeah, I
in
told
that
you. I told you when we talked the other day. I drove by, Big Five Sporting Goods. The sports store was open, and sports weren't even allowed at that point. Like you weren't allowed to play sports, and the sports store is open. And it's like, man.